Hey, what's up? I'm Aox, and I've got a couple of questions for you. Number one, what do you get when you take a short children's book and turn it into 3 feature-length movies? That's right, pacing issues. Question 2, what happens when you take a 26-minute short film and stretch it out into a 25-episode television series? That's right, pacing. Little Witch Academia. What's Little Witch Academia, I hear you ask? Well, you've not seen it? It was a pretty good little animated thing back in like 2013 or something through the Animated Mideye project, and had a sort of Disney-esque charm to it as it stumbled through a fairly straightforward retelling of Harry Potter and the Important Stick. As a Hogwarts alum myself, I was happy to see a more straightforward fantasy retelling of the Magic School Kids documentary, subgenre, and that short film was very enjoyable and concise and all sorts of other positive buzzwords, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about a particular, somewhat divisive animation studio that's produced by and large a lot of good shows that failed to reach the potential they might have otherwise had they actually given their shows better pacing. Wait, which studio animated Little Witch Academia again? Oh, see, that makes sense. Coming off as too harsh is not my intent, though. I mean, Trigger's divisive, yes, but at least they can animate with more than fucking 4 frames of animation. Stop it. Trigger's always had a lot of issues with pacing. Kill La Kill suffered terribly for the filler, and I don't think Hinobata really even bears mentioning, beyond that it felt like they were trying to stretch 6 episodes of anime out over like a 12-episode series, but you know, I still like them. I've not seen Kiznaiva, but my love for Inferno Cop is well documented, and considering they're captained by alums from Gainax, which is a studio I have undying reverence for, I can't really not on some level appreciate their output. Even if their recent spasmodic flailing seems to suggest that Trigger are desperately trying to be Gainax 2, if you're going to emulate any one anime studio, you could do a lot worse than the studio that produced a Die Buster, Evangelion, and fucking Gurren Lagann. Why do I think they're trying to be Gainax 2? I don't know, it's just a feeling. Oh! Do you get the reference? This is actually a really good episode, I'll get back to this. It's a tough world out there making anime series, and Little Witch Academia's original short film is, in my opinion, Trigger's highest quality offering to date. The sequel was very good as well. The witches do the magic, and the bad guys go away, and the good... Great work, guys. Well done. So theoretically, there should be a lot going for Little Witch Academia TV, and hey, guess what? There's a lot going for Little Witch Academia TV. It's not a bad show at all. In fact, I generally very much enjoyed it, but Trigger stumbled once again where Trigger stumbles best, and the main area I've seen the negative impact of the lackluster pacing is the impact it has on the character of our lead, Ako Kagari. Ako is by all rights a very charming protagonist. She's a clumsy idiot with her heart in the right place, and the show constantly insists that of every witch at Luna Nova, Ako's the only one who understands and believes that magic is something wonderful. It's cliche, it's rote, it can be extremely charming. Couple that with a few good foils in the form of Diana, who's Ako's diametric opposite, at first glance at least, and Constance, whose interactions with Ako provide the catalyst for the really good 18th episode. Who the hell do you think I am? And you've got yourself a fantastic character whose struggles are sympathetic and whose goals are as heartwarming as they are inspiring. Sounds pretty good, right? Sounds like a good character, sounds like a great lead for a show like this, huh? Sounds like a really good time? Well... you're right. She's lovely, and sweet, and earnest, and a huge idiot, and just a huge idiot, just the biggest idiot. Stop fucking, you're ruining everything. Ako's one of those characters who usually instigates the issues that she must resolve over the next episode or arc, and when the show's pacing starts to stall out, as it does with increasing frequency, until suddenly Trigger remembered they were making an anime, not a Mad Lib, suddenly being deluged with mistake after mistake on her part turns what was an endearing, sympathetic character trait into a slow, begrudging guessing game of what will Ako ruin next, which a book I once read said is not a good thing to think about a protagonist. Constantly screwing up all of the time is, however, something rather common in Western sitcoms and my autobiography, and that's another thing about Trigger's ethos. They throw Western. Trigger and Gainax have a history of emulating Western styles, coming from Gurren Lagann, Panty and Stocking, Inferno Cop, Ninja Slayer. These are all shows that dabble in Western imagery more than their contemporaries. Panty and Stocking specifically was incepted as being a Western cartoon made in Japan, and they nailed that one. It's like about as Western as it... Jesus Christ. And that's obviously the case with Little Witch Academia, because it's just literally Harry Potter, but with a bit more estrogen, a bit less angsty teen romance, and a whole lot of repetitive plot out the way! And the characters feel fairly Western too. I mean, perhaps that's fitting for a show that takes place in magical England with the famous large James and their houses of parlor-ing Lipton in the background there, but Akko specifically feels, as I said before, like a very Western protagonist. That is to say, she fucks up constantly without becoming aware of her own faults. She's like if Basil Fawlty was a young magical girl, and that's a disconcerting mental ugh. She makes a lot of mistakes a lot of the time, and that's because she's the earnest, clumsy type, as I said before. She screws up frequently, and she screws up hard, and her mistakes inconvenience everyone, but she pulls through and resolves the issue she caused in a way that usually surprises everyone and makes them go, oh, she might not be a very good witch, but her heart's in the right place, and that's a very Western trope, which is fantastic for, say, random example, a 26-minute long short film, but it's substantially less fantastic for, again, completely pulling this out of thin air, say, a television series of 25 20-minute long episodes. Probably wouldn't work quite as well in that instance. If I were to, metaphorically speaking, crush Little Witch Academia into its essence and then make an animatic depicting the result, it'd probably look like this. This magic is too hard. I'm gonna do another riskier thing. No, Akko, don't do that thing. I did it, and it went wrong. I have restored the status quo. Oh, Akko. It got to a point where I was genuinely relieved when an episode transpired in which Akko wasn't the main course of the issue that was confronted, a lot like episode 18. You get the idea, and that's a real shame because it was very enjoyable to watch when it was exploring the world or expanding on side characters or doing just anything but Akko ruining things. So that's really my biggest complaint with how Little Witch Academia's pacing negatively affects the show, although there are certainly a few more issues to fixate on if you're, you know, the petty type. The general plot suffers in a lot of the same ways Kill la Kill and Nino Bartos did, as far as backloading plot and front-loading filler, leaving a sort of nebulous, useless interim space where absolutely nothing important happens. Some people call this the flyover state. Of course, feeling drawn out isn't rare for any 25-episode shows. That's sort of the curse of the core-based system, is that 12 episodes rarely feel like enough, and 25 episodes nearly always feels like too much. But it either speaks to the quality of the show, or how frustrating the pacing was, that I feel like this is probably one of the more rocky series I've ever watched pacing-wise. Actually, I say that, but that smartphone isekai show was just one of the worst things I've ever seen. It has good pacing, like this joke has good comedic timing. And again, this has been quite negative, but that's because this is the main damning point about this otherwise pretty good anime in my opinion. As the thing I hesitate to call a running gag for this video is shown, there's at least one filler episode that I like a lot, so even when it's not pursuing its main storyline, it's not condemned to mediocrity. When they're not trying to push the furry agenda, Trigger has the chops to deliver some pretty gratifying, enjoyable character interaction, even if sometimes it can feel like they're overstretching, and there's some fantastic extrapolations made from the initial source material, even if on a whole the animation isn't quite up to the standard of the original material, but that's to be expected with a 26-episode long series. The sidecast too were substantially more fleshed out in this than they were in the original 26-minute long short film because it was a 26-minute long short film, and it's nice to see them really throw into the sort of maternal mentor relationship between Akko and Ursula, who we barely saw in the original film. They also added a proper villain, Lacroix, French, a witch who has modernized her equipment and her tactics to be more effective in a world where witches are viewed as outdated and behind the times, and instead of a broom or a vacuum cleaner, she rides a Roomba. I thought that was rather clever. They can be great when they want to be. Still, for all the new characters and the more interpersonal drama, Trigger didn't apparently put a lot of thought into how the existing cast might play into the plot. Following episode 18, Lot and Susie, the Ron and Hermione to Akko's Harry, only instead of being a lovable idiot and a know-it-all smartass, one's a lovable smartass and the other's a mushroom fetishist biological weapons dealer, completely fall off the radar along with the other two-thirds of the supporting cast, and that also felt rather jarring, at least until the big finale where the cast is literally crammed together forcefully in what has turned out to be a fairly prophetic depiction of the Guam Missile Crisis. Trigger's always had a problem with pacing, ultimately, and it can be very frustrating watching them work because you can feel the raw talent and enthusiasm just pulsing beneath the surface of everything they do, although they've yet to effectively channel it. Little Witch Academia could have been so much better than it was had it just felt more consistently paced, and that is a damn shame because it's pretty damn good already. One can only hope that their upcoming trifecta of shows ends up not being hamstrung by the same failings, I suppose. Although it wouldn't be the first time Trigger had sucked me into watching an anime just because they said it was Gurren Lagann again. If I wanted Gurren Lagann again, I'd just rewatch episode 18.